All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts. The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Imposter Syndrome, Educated Above One's Station and Feminine Inferiority Complex, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. The man test: how feminized society fails the male litmus of strength, silence, and sovereignty, while rewarding weakness, whining, and woke delusion. You know what they did to Socrates. They poisoned him. Not because he was loud, not because he was violent. No, they killed him because he asked too many questions, because he wouldn't shut up, because he looked at the sacred cows of Athens, the priestesses, the poets, the politicians, and said, "You are full of lies." And now, 2,400 years later, I'm standing in that same courtroom, cross-examining the new priesthood. The HR departments, the diversity consultants, the TikTok therapists, the feminist sociologists who've turned female emotion into a state religion and male reason into a hate crime. You think this is hyperbole? Let me tell you what happened last Tuesday. I watched a woman on Instagram cry because her boyfriend didn't notice she'd changed her haircut. Not because she told him, no, that would be too direct, too honest, too male. She wanted him to feel it, to intuit it, to fail the test of manhood by not being a mind reader. And the comments, thousands of women clapping. If he doesn't notice, he doesn't care. Let me translate: if he doesn't orbit my emotional black hole, he's defective. This is not love. This is emotional terrorism disguised as sensitivity. And it's not just in relationships, it's in schools, in offices, in churches. In laws, they've turned emotional intelligence into a trap, a gynocentric lie to filter out strong men and reward the cowering compliant. Over-apologizing husks they call good guys. But here's the truth they don't want you to hear. The only emotional intelligence that matters is the ability to see through the lie, to smell the manipulation, to recognize, like Schopenhauer did, that most of what women call feelings are just weapons, subtle, silent, devastating. And if you can't detect that, you're already dead inside. They want you weak. Not physically, though they've nearly succeeded, but existentially. They want you slumped at your desk, eyes glued to the screen, spine curved like a question mark, wondering why no woman respects you, why your kids barely know you, why your voice shakes when you try to speak up. Meanwhile, they celebrate female empowerment while male suicide climbs to 80% of all suicides. They scream about toxic masculinity while 94% of workplace deaths are men, miners, roofers, truckers, soldiers dying in silence so women can shop online in safety. They fund women's health with billions while testicular cancer gets less research than acne. They promote Me Too, but mock men abused by women. Because real victimhood is only for women and real men, they say, don't complain. But I say, bullshit. The cross wasn't a metaphor. Christ didn't die so women could have therapy pets and men could have debt, divorce, and despair. He died as a symbol of sacrifice under injustice. And today, men are being crucified in family courts, in police stations, in hospitals, in schools, while the world looks away, clucking about privilege. You are not privileged. You are prey, and the only way out is to wake the hell up, to walk like a man who knows the truth, to stand like Washington, to think like Aurelius, to fight like Tate, not for fame, but because someone finally said enough while the rest of you were still filling out diversity surveys. This book isn't a self-help guide, it's a war manual. And if you're still breathing, you're drafted. The litmus of being testing emotional intelligence in a world that mocks masculine insight. I can read your mood, she said, eyes wide with faux empathy, as if I were a malfunctioning toaster she was diagnosing with a multimeter. That was the first time I realized the game wasn't about emotional intelligence. It was about compliance testing. The mood reading test isn't a measure of insight. It's a loyalty oath written in tears and passive-aggressive silence. You pass not by being perceptive, but by being pliant, by agreeing that her unspoken rage is more sacred than your spoken truth. I passed that test, nodded at the right times, mirrored her fake sadness, and still, like every beta male who mistakes appeasement for intimacy, I was discarded the moment she found someone with real power, someone who didn't need to read her mood because he refused to be ruled by it. Walk into any modern corporate office and you'll find HR conducting emotional intelligence assessments with the solemnity of a witch trial. These aren't tools to identify wisdom or character. They're social sieves designed to filter out men who speak directly, think independently, and refuse to genuflect before emotional theater. The metrics favor men who are anxious, agreeable, and perpetually self-monitoring. The kind of men who apologize for existing. A 2023 study from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology confirmed what any red-pilled man already knows: emotional intelligence scales are heavily gender-biased, rewarding neuroticism and punishment of assertiveness in men. They don't measure emotional insight, they measure submission. And when they say you lack empathy, what they mean is you refuse to validate our lies. The workplace isn't selecting for emotionally intelligent men, it's selecting for neutered men. Eunuchs trained to smile while their careers are gutted by women who weaponize tears like biochemical warfare. Remember Jordan Peterson's debate with Slavoj Žižek? One man stood there, grounded in truth, logic, and the weight of Western tradition, speaking of responsibility, meaning, and the reality of evil. The other spun in circles like a dervish possessed by the spirit of Derrida, babbling about capitalism and desire like a Marxist parrot trained to squawk oppression at the sight of success. Žižek wasn't offering insight, he was performing emotionalism, a circus of pseudo-profundity designed to mimic wisdom while smuggling in moral relativism. That debate wasn't a clash of ideas, it was a litmus test. Peterson passed because he refused to play the game of manufactured sensitivity. He didn't read the room, he changed it. And that's why the left hates him. They don't want men who discern truth. They want men who feel their way into compliance. Real emotional intelligence isn't knowing when to cry. It's knowing when someone is faking the need for you to cry. Scroll through TikTok if you dare and observe the latest trend, women filming their partners missing so-called subtle signals. He didn't catch her sudden shift in energy. He didn't pause his grilling to dissect her quiet breath. He didn't immediately interrogate himself for failing to divine her unspoken distress. And the comments explode. He's emotionally broken. She should be with someone better. This is why love crumbles. But let's not pretend she wasn't seeking a partner. She wanted a mind reader, a compliant assistant wired to her moods. This isn't emotional awareness, it's control. These women run psychological trials, shaping men into emotional surveillance tools fine-tuned to their impulses, and those who refuse, men who value action, responsibility, integrity, are branded inadequate. But the flaw isn't in them. It's in a culture that glorifies emotional manipulation and shames self-possession. I call it the Schopenhauer filter. The ability to see not just what people feel, but why they're performing those feelings and whether they're lying. Most men fail this test because they've been brainwashed into believing that emotional intelligence means responding to every emotional signal as if it were gospel. But Schopenhauer knew better. The world is a theater of misery and the actors wear masks. True emotional intelligence isn't sensitivity, it's skepticism. It's seeing the manipulation behind the quiet treatment, the power play behind the "I'm not mad" I'm just disappointed. The evolutionary strategy behind female tears. Women aren't more emotionally intelligent, they're more emotionally weaponized. And the men who survive are the ones who stop trying to understand her feelings and start asking, what game is she playing and what does she want to take from me? This is the reading between the lines test that no one talks about, not the ability to detect sadness in a voice, but the courage to detect deceit in a smile. In family courts, where 70–80% of custody rulings favor mothers, regardless of fitness, men who read the mood and play nice get destroyed. The ones who survive are those who see the system for what it is, a gynocentric tribunal where emotion is evidence and fatherhood is a liability. They don't appease, they prepare. They don't seek harmony, they seek justice. And in doing so, they pass the only emotional intelligence test that matters, the ability to survive the lie. Scripture saw this coming. Proverbs 14:8 declares, "The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit." The prudent man doesn't waste time decoding emotional fog. He understands his way. He knows the terrain of human nature, the contours of betrayal, the scent of manipulation. The fool, meanwhile, chases after emotional harmony like a dog chasing its tail, blind to the deceit that's strangling him. Modern emotional intelligence isn't wisdom. It's the folly of fools, repackaged as corporate training and relationship advice. It teaches men to obsess over feelings while their lives are stolen through divorce, false accusations, child support, and social ostracization. Let's talk numbers, since facts are the acid that dissolves lies. The CDC estimates that 30% of men are raising children that aren't genetically theirs, cuckoldry on an industrial scale. Yet we're told men need more empathy in the same breath. We're told to be emotionally attuned to women, while ignoring that women initiate 70% of divorces, often using children as leverage. Police arrest rates for domestic violence show men are far more likely to be arrested, even when they're the victims, especially if they defend themselves, and male suicide. It's 4 times higher than female suicide in the US, yet mental health initiatives focus on female empowerment while mocking male stoicism as toxic. Emotional intelligence, as sold today, isn't about health, it's about control. It's a doctrine designed to make men feel guilty for existing, so they'll surrender their agency, their wealth, and their dignity at the altar of female emotional entitlement. So here's the truth, brother. Emotional intelligence is not about feeling more, it's about seeing more. It's not about being in tune with her mood swings, it's about being in command of your own mind. The modern world doesn't want men who are emotionally intelligent. It wants men who are emotionally enslaved. And the only way out is to reject the entire framework. Stop trying to pass their tests. Start building your own. True discernment isn't found in HR manuals or TikTok trends. It's found in the quiet courage of a man who looks into the eyes of deception, smiles and says, "I see you." And I'm not playing. I've sat across from men who cracked under the weight of silent expectations. The ones who work 80-hour weeks in offshore rigs, came home to empty houses, and still got called emotionally unavailable by women who'd never lifted anything heavier than a yoga mat. I've seen fathers bankrupted by child support they never agreed to, sons estranged by courts that treat mothers as sacred and fathers as disposable, and veterans ignored while TikTok influencers whine about male privilege from their soundproofed bedrooms. And every time I point this out, the response is always the same: shut up, privileged man. So let me ask you, when did sacrifice become a sin? When did dying for society make you the villain in your own life? That's the lie we're all swallowing, and it's killing us one compliant silence at a time. The weight of the world, strength, responsibility, and the betrayal of male civil rights. 94% of workplace deaths are men. Let that settle in your gut like a lead brick dropped from a skyscraper. You hear about toxic masculinity as if men are the problem, but not a peep when men die in mines, on rigs, in construction, or in chemical plants, jobs so dangerous no feminist would last 2 hours in them. And when a man dies, the headlines don't scream patriarchy killed him, they don't scream anything. OSHA reports quietly stack up like unopened coffins. Meanwhile, the media throws parades for women breaking glass ceilings in HR departments, where the biggest risk is paper cuts and passive-aggressive Slack messages. Men die carrying the weight of civilization while women sip oat milk lattes and lecture men on emotional availability. The irony is so thick you could chip it off with a chisel. During World War II, Rosie the Riveter became a national icon, poster girl for female empowerment. Meanwhile, 400,000 American men were blown apart on beaches, frozen in foxholes, or incinerated in tanks. Women worked in factories, so did men before, during, and after the war, except men also worked in war. Women were celebrated for temporary industrial labor, while men were expected to die silently and then come home to build the post-war economy without complaint. And when they returned with PTSD, though we didn't call it that then, they were told to man up and get back to work. No parades for them, no national shrines to their silence. Just a quiet expectation, carry on, carry the load, and don't expect thanks. The same pattern repeats, men bear the burden, women reap the credit, and society calls it equality. Let's talk about family court, the modern-day gulag for fathers. 70% of custody goes to mothers, even when they're abusive, neglectful, or mentally unstable. The father. He's deemed a visitor in his own child's life, forced to pay 90% of child support, sometimes to women who don't need it, sometimes to women who never let him see his kids. And where are the protests? Where are the marches? Where are the gender equality NGOs silent? Because their mission isn't equality, it's female supremacy. These institutions are not interested in justice. They are interested in power, and they've rigged the system so thoroughly that a man today risks losing everything. His children, his home, his savings, over a single angry text message, while women can abandon children, skip child support, and vanish without consequence. This isn't family law, it's institutionalized betrayal. Suicide? 80% of suicides are men. But when was the last time you saw a viral campaign about male mental health? Never. Instead, we get endless loops about women's mental health struggles, as if depression is a gendered achievement. Men die by their own hands at unprecedented rates, often after being stripped of their children, their dignity, and their purpose. Yet the response is silence, mockery, or blame. He should have asked for help. Oh, really? Try asking for help when the only therapists available are feminist counselors who call you toxic for disagreeing with your ex-wife's new boyfriend living in your house, paying no child support. While you're bankrupt from alimony, men don't kill themselves because they're weak. They kill themselves because they've been systematically disarmed, disowned, and discarded by a system that demands everything from them and gives nothing in return. The burden paradox is this. Society demands that men carry the heaviest loads, war, work, provision, protection, while simultaneously denying them rights, recognition, or recourse. You want men to be strong? Fine. But don't mock them when they break. Don't pathologize their strength as toxic. Don't strip them of their children and then accuse them of being absent fathers. Don't send them to die in wars and then call them oppressors when they come home. The burden paradox isn't a flaw in the system, it's the design. A society that depends on male sacrifice but demonizes male identity is not broken. It is working as intended by those who benefit from male disposability. And during the pandemic, men died from COVID at 2.5 times the rate of women. Biologically, men are more vulnerable to respiratory viruses, yet did we hear about male biological fragility? No. Instead, the media flooded us with stories about women's pandemic stress and how hard it was to balance Zoom meetings with avocado toast. Meanwhile, men were dying in hospitals, often alone, while the narrative remained fixated on female suffering, real or imagined. The double standard isn't accidental, it's ideological. The left doesn't care about suffering. It cares about performative suffering. Suffering that serves the narrative of female victimhood and male guilt. Actual male suffering. Invisible, unworthy of mention, because acknowledging it would shatter the myth. Christ carried the cross, not Mary, not the disciples, him alone, bleeding, silent, bearing the weight for others. That is the archetype of male strength, a burden accepted without reward, without recognition, without complaint. Contrast that with modern feminism's gospel of self-care, where women post Instagram stories about needing a spa day while men are working 60-hour weeks to keep roofs over their heads. One is sacrifice. The other is narcissism disguised as wellness. One builds civilization, the other tears it down, and yet we're told that men need to change, that men are the problem, that men must become more nurturing, more vulnerable, more like women. No, men must become more men, more courageous, more responsible, more unmovable in the face of lies. The real test of character isn't how softly you speak. It's can you lift something heavier than expected and keep walking. War, economic collapse, a dying parent, a failing marriage, a child with special needs. These are the weights that life drops into your arms unannounced. And who does society expect to carry them? Men, always men. We don't praise men for carrying weight. We punish them when they buckle. But the solution isn't to abandon strength. It's to demand justice for those who bear the load. Stop glorifying female fragility. Stop pathologizing male resilience. And start asking, who benefits when men are both overburdened and underprotected? The answer isn't hard to find. Follow the money, follow the power, and then, like a man, resist. I remember standing in that gas station, soda in hand, staring at that flickering screen like it was a church altar broadcasting holy doctrine, except the gospel being preached wasn't about love or justice, but about a hierarchy of victimhood where men don't even qualify for sainthood, let alone sympathy. It hit me then, like a shovel to the ribs. We've built a world where a man can bleed out in silence and it's treated as natural order. But if a woman stubs her toe in the same room, the National Guard shows up with grief counselors and a congressional resolution. And that's not an accident. It's design. It's policy. It's ideology masquerading as morality, and if we don't name it, dissect it, and destroy it with fire and truth. We're all just waiting our turn on the cross. The Great Omission, male civil rights erased from the equality narrative. 6 men died by suicide today in America. 0 were women. And not one of those 6 men was ever mentioned on International Women's Day, not one. I was at a gas station last winter, watching the news on a flickering screen above the soda cooler. A feminist pundit in a tailored pantsuit chirped, "We must center women's voices in every conversation about safety, dignity, and justice." I stood there, shivering in my coat, thinking, what conversation includes the man who just jumped off the bridge because the family court gave his kids to a narcissist who called him a pedophile for missing a child support payment? There is no women's voice to center when a man is dragged through the mud by a false accusation, when the police won't take his domestic violence report because men don't get abused, but they'll send 3 cruisers and a K9 unit if his Honda Civic goes missing. This isn't equality. This is gendered triage, where women are treated as sacred relics and men are treated as disposable infrastructure. I reported abuse once, not the soft, whiny kind. The real thing, a woman who screamed in my face, threw glassware, called me worthless, then filed for custody and accused me of being emotionally abusive because I dared to disagree with her spending habits. I walked into the precinct with screenshots, recordings, medical records. The officer looked at me like I was a cockroach in a salad. "Sir, we don't handle this kind of thing. She's the mother, you're the father. Just pay up and move on." But when I called them 3 weeks later because someone keyed my car and stole my GPS, they showed up in under 5 minutes. One officer even brought donuts. The state doesn't protect men. It protects property and women. Because in the gynocentric utopia we now inhabit, women are seen as perpetual victims, fragile, pure, in need of saving, while men are seen as walking ATMs with pulse rates. When a woman yells "Me Too," the media erupts like Vesuvius. When a man says "Me Too, she lied and ruined my life," he's laughed out of court, off Twitter, off LinkedIn. The movement wasn't about justice, it was about power. And like all feminist projects since the 1970s, it was designed from the start to exclude men's suffering, not by accident, but by intent. Let's not pretend this omission was innocent. The National Organization for Women, in its founding documents, didn't just ignore men's issues, they mocked them. In 1971, Betty Friedan dismissed male alienation as the problem with no name. a throwaway line to silence men who dared to question the new matriarchal narrative. While women were liberated from the kitchen, men were enslaved to the cubicle, the courtroom, the conscription list. Today, men make up 93% of workplace fatalities, 77% of suicides, 92% of the homeless population. And yet, if you suggest that men might have civil rights issues, you're labeled a toxic male or a misogynist. The word misogynist itself has been weaponized like a taser. It doesn't mean hatred of women anymore. It means man who dares to speak. Meanwhile, the CDC reports that women initiate domestic violence at equal or higher rates than men, especially in lesbian relationships. But try telling that to a judge who just awarded full custody to a woman who slapped her husband and called the cops on him. Hollywood seals the deal. They make films where women punch through walls, fly through space, lead armies, while men are either absent, emasculated, or the villain for wanting stability, duty, and truth. In The Incredibles 2, the government blames Mr. Incredible for toxic masculinity because he rescued people too well, too strong, too capable. Helen Parr, the wife, is celebrated for empowering other women to take over. The message: male competence is a threat. Female ambition is divine. This isn't storytelling, it's ideological programming, a Trojan horse smuggling in the idea that men must be subdued so women can rise. But when did rising require crushing? When did equality mean exclusion? The ancient Greeks understood arete, excellence of character. The Romans valued virtus, manly courage. Today, we have virtue signaling, where men are expected to kneel, apologize for their DNA, and hand over their inheritance to the sisterhood. And for what? A pat on the head? A participation trophy in the gender war. Let's call this what it is: the equality mirage. It's the illusion that fairness exists when only one gender's pain is acknowledged, funded, legislated, and televised. The UN spends billions on women's health initiatives. Great, but they spend zero on testicular cancer awareness, male depression outreach, or male suicide prevention. Why? Because men are not seen as worthy of saving. We're seen as expendable. Like the Spartans at Thermopylae, we're expected to die quietly, heroically, without complaint. And like Christ on the cross, we're told to suffer in silence. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But here's the difference: Christ was resurrected. Modern men are crucified in family court and left to rot in legal purgatory, with no resurrection, no justice, no voice. The state, the media, the academy, they've all become priestesses of the feminine cult, preaching that male pain is either fake, deserved, or irrelevant. I once asked the social worker why family courts automatically assume men are deadbeats or abusers. She looked at me and said, "Because men are more likely to be." I handed her the CDC data showing women initiate violence at similar rates. She didn't read it, she tossed it. "We don't work from data," she said. "We work from trauma narratives." There it is, the dogma. Not science, not logic, not truth. Narrative. The feminist worldview runs on narrative supremacy. If she says she's a victim, she is, regardless of evidence. If he defends himself, he's an abuser. This isn't justice. It's theological inversion, where men are original sinners and women are born immaculate. And like any religion, it demands confession, penance, and submission. The penance: pay child support for kids you're not allowed to see. The confession: admit you're problematic for wanting fairness. The submission: stay silent, pay up, and disappear. Wake up. The equality you've been sold is a bait and switch. They use the language of justice to advance a one-sided conquest. While women were given affirmative action, diversity hires, and victim status, men were handed conscription, alimony, and the silent expectation to die quietly in a cubicle or on a construction site. We're told to man up, but only when it serves the system. When we break down, when we ask for help, when we say "I'm drowning," we're told to toughen up. The hypocrisy is breathtaking, and the cost: 6 men today. 6 more tomorrow, and not a single candle lit, not a single headline written, not a single feminist with the courage to say, "We've gone too far." The living spirit of Western civilization wasn't built on tears and trauma porn. It was built on logic, courage, duty, and truth. Reclaim it. Speak, fight, refuse the lie, or the next man they erase will be you. I've watched men collapse under the weight of a world that tells them to kneel for pronouns while ignoring their crushed vertebrae from warehouse shifts. And I've realized the rot goes deeper than economics, it's metaphysical. The left, draped in the rags of equity, has recast male strength as pathology, reframed duty as oppression, and turned the upright spine into a crime against the cult of victimhood. They don't want equality, they want supremacy, dressed up as justice, while men are told to shrink, apologize, and disappear. But nature laughs at lies, and the body never forgets the truth. A man's posture is his soul made visible, and when you spend your life hunched over screens, appeasing women and HR goddesses, your spine becomes a monument to surrender. It is not imposter syndrome you suffer from, brother. It is the slow suffocation of a soul that was born to lead, protect, and stand tall. Now buried beneath feminist dogma and capitalist eunuchs who've turned work into worship without worth. The warehouse is burning, the forge is cold, and the men who built the world are being told to sit down and listen. Enough. The posture of power, presence, capitalism, and the reclamation of male sovereignty. You are not depressed. I told the 27-year-old programmer slouched in his gaming chair, neck craned like a turkey vulture over a keyboard slick with Cheeto dust. You are defeated. And your spine is the first casualty of a war you didn't know you lost. He blinked. He had a six-figure job, a Tesla lease, and a Discord full of friends who called him beta cuck every time he defended monogamy. But he couldn't stand straight. His posture screamed surrender. And in that moment I realized the crisis of modern masculinity isn't about jobs or dating apps. It's about presence. Not presence as in social media clout, but presence as in being, as in the ancient Stoic understanding of standing in truth, duty, and self-command. Look at Marcus Aurelius, not in some marble bath, but in the frozen Danube frontier, wrapped in a simple cloak, overseeing the empire while dysentery gnawed at his gut. No therapy animals, no mindfulness retreats. No HR telling him to check his privilege. Just duty, just spine, just being. That is presence. And that is what has been systematically neutered from men under the feminist capitalist hydra now choking the West. Walk into any Amazon warehouse, 85% male. Back injuries soaring, lives shredded by algorithmic quotas. And tell me capitalism is the problem. No. The problem is that unionization campaigns are hijacked by feminist NGOs obsessed with gender parity, while men break their spines stacking boxes so women in HR can lecture them about toxic masculinity. Let me be clear. Men built capitalism. We forged it in sweat, steel, and silence. But now, the system we built has been feminized, not in the sense of women participating, but in the sense of values, performative empathy, victim hierarchies, emotional exhibitionism, and the elevation of feeling over doing. This is not capitalism. This is capitalism raped by genocentric sentimentality. And men are left holding the fractured pelvises, while women march under rainbow flags demanding equity in boardrooms they've never earned. The Mesadra Nielsen inversion is real. They write about logistics and labor exploitation, but they never ask who is doing the labor, who is dying on the warehouse floor, who is getting crushed by the machine. Men. Always men. And yet the discourse is dominated by women who've never lifted a pallet, never worked a double shift, never faced a foreman's boot. This is not an accident, it is design. The feminist capture of labor discourse ensures that male suffering is invisible, while female ambition is sacralized. I watched Andrew Tate walk into that Romanian courtroom, not with a crouch, not with a plea, not with tears, but like a man who knows he is more than his indictment. And the entire Western media machine went apoplectic. Why? Because presence terrifies the establishment. Not his cars, not his money, but the fact that he occupies space like a sovereign. That is what they fear. Not misogyny, not extremism, but unbroken male presence. Compare that to the average Zoom call beta. Shoulders hunched, eyes darting, voice quivering as he apologizes for existing. That's not evolution, that's domestication. We've bred men like cattle, selecting for obedience, compliance, and emotional neutering. Schools now pathologize dominant body language in boys, standing tall, taking up space, speaking with conviction as intimidating. Meanwhile, girls are encouraged to lean in, speak up, claim their power. Translation: men must shrink, women must expand. And the psychological data confirms it. Men with upright posture are rated as more competent, trustworthy, and authoritative, yet we medicalize their natural bearing as toxic dominance. This is not progress. This is war by other means. I once stood at the foot of a crucifix in a ruined abbey in northern France. The Christ figure was not slumped in agony, he was upright, head high, arms stretched, not in defeat, but in sovereignty. Even in suffering, he claimed space. That is the model. Not the modern man taught to sit down and listen, to check his fragility, to apologize for his privilege. That is not humility, that is humiliation masquerading as virtue. The cross is not a symbol of weakness. It is the ultimate assertion of presence in the face of annihilation. And yet today, men are told to kneel, not before God, but before women, HR departments, diversity officers, and Twitter mobs. We have replaced the upright cross with the kneeling emoji, and the result: male suicide rates are 5 times higher than women's false accusations in family court are rampant. 70% of domestic violence allegations against men are unfounded, yet men are arrested first 98% of the time. Cuckoldry rates. Studies suggest 1 in 10 men are raising children not their own. A biological betrayal made possible by female deception and male naivety and abortion. Over 90% of abortions are elective, often without the father's consent, a unilateral severing of paternal rights. These are not issues. These are symptoms of a civilization that has declared male sovereignty obsolete. So here is your regimen. Lift weights, not for aesthetics, but to reclaim your physical authority. Walk, not shuffle, with your head high, like Washington crossing the Delaware, not some TikTok influencer begging for validation. Read Seneca, not Brené Brown. Pray in silence, not whine in therapy circles. Stand in the cold, not cower in climate-controlled victimhood. Presence is not performance, it is alignment with truth, duty, and strength. Capitalism isn't the enemy. The enemy is the feminization of every institution men built, from business to law to religion. We must reclaim it not with rage, but with spine, soul, and silence. The West was not built by men who sat down. It was built by men who stood up and refused to kneel. You thought you were broken because you didn't cry on command, because you didn't ask your coworkers how they feel about the coffee machine, because you still stand when a woman enters the room not out of subservience, but out of instinctive respect for order, hierarchy, and the ghost of chivalry that still flickers in your bones. You were told you lacked emotional intelligence when you failed to read between the lines of a woman's passive-aggressive text, but you missed the real test. She was setting you up to fail, so she could feel justified in discarding you. The same system that mocks your stoicism demands you carry the weight of the world in war, in work, in child support, in silence, then laughs when you buckle as if you weren't designed to carry it, as if you weren't the engine that built every cathedral, launched every rocket, dug every mine. You are not defective. You are the last sane man in a world that has declared oxygen toxic. They call you toxic for standing tall, for lifting what others avoid, for seeing through the emotional bait and switch that passes for communication in the age of TikTok therapy. They pathologize your posture, your strength, your refusal to kneel, not because these things harm anyone, but because they expose the lie. That equality means female supremacy, that sensitivity is wisdom, that silence is weakness. Wake up. The 2023 CDC data shows men die by suicide at nearly 4 times the rate of women, yet there are no men's mental health commercials during the Super Bowl. The UN spends $3 billion a year on women's empowerment programs and exactly 0 on male suicide prevention. And when a man dares to speak in family court, in HR, on social media, he is laughed at, fined, arrested, or deplatformed. Meanwhile, a woman can tweet "kill all men" and get a book deal. That's not equality, that's conquest. That's the genocracy in full bloom. fertilized by feminist lies and Marxist moral rot. I don't care if you've been divorced, bankrupted, silenced, or shamed. I don't care if you've been told you're problematic for believing a man should protect his family, or that truth matters more than feelings. You are not the problem, you are the cure. Every time you lift the heavy thing without complaint, every time you walk with your spine straight, every time you refuse to pretend that a woman's mood swing is a cosmic event requiring your immediate emotional surrender, you are resisting the deprogramming. You are reasserting the transcendentals, the true, the good, the beautiful, not as feelings, but as objective anchors in a world gone mad. You are doing what Marcus Aurelius did, what Christ did, what every red-pilled man since Schopenhauer has done, seeing the sickness, naming it, and walking upright through the fire. So go forth, speak plainly, lift heavier, stand taller, laugh at the cowards who call strength toxic. And when they come for you, and they will remember this, the last thing a drowning woman does is claw at the man trying to save her. She doesn't hate him. She's just too panicked to see he's the only one who can pull her to shore. You are not their slave, you are not their enemy. You are their forgotten king. And now the sponsored book introduction, Imposter Syndrome. Educated above one's station and feminine inferiority complex. I was a good student. I did what I was told. I studied hard, respected authority, believed in fairness, and trusted that if I played by the rules, the world would reward me. I believed in merit. I believed in progress. I believed in women. I believed in education. I believed in equality. I believed in truth. And for my faith, I was punished. I rose quickly, not because I was special, but because I was honest, diligent, and curious. I read the classics. I mastered logic. I learned rhetoric. I respected grammar. I thought these tools would set me free. Instead, they made me a target. The higher I climbed, the more isolated I became. I was no longer one of them. I saw too clearly. I spoke too directly. I refused to lie, and so they called me arrogant. They called me toxic. They called me privileged, while stripping me of every privilege I had earned. I was educated above my station, and for that crime I was exiled. They told me knowledge would liberate me. Instead, it made me a prisoner of awareness. I saw the machinery behind the curtain, the feminist emotional blackmail, the leftist manipulation, the gynocentric tyranny, the collapse of reason, the death of virtue. I saw how women, once revered, had become weaponized against men, not all of them, but enough to poison the well. I saw how education, once a sacred pursuit of truth, had become a factory for guilt, confusion, and ideological servitude. I saw how the trivium, the foundation of Western thought, had been replaced with the cult of feelings, where emotion trumps logic and victimhood is currency. I was not broken, I was betrayed. And if you're reading this, you've been betrayed too. This book is not for everyone. It is not for cowards. It is not for women who cry at TED Talks or men who apologize for existing. It is not for the weak-minded, the emotionally dependent, or the ideologically possessed. If you believe in equality as a moral imperative, if you think feminism has been a net good, if you trust the institutions that have destroyed your father's generation, then close this book now. Go back to your podcasts, your therapy sessions, your diversity trainings, pick up gardening, learn knitting, watch Netflix, do anything but read these pages, because the truth here will dismantle you. This book is for men who have woken up screaming in the night, realizing they've been lied to their entire lives. It is for men who have been called too intense, too logical, too much, not because they are flawed, but because they refuse to submit. You will learn why meritocracy is a lie designed to lure ambitious men into systems that will discard them. You will understand the biological and psychological roots of the feminine inferiority complex, how insecurity masquerades as strength, how manipulation replaces honesty, how female status seeking destroys male potential. You will see how Schopenhauer's red pill, the bitter truth about human nature, desire, and suffering, sets you free from illusion. You will discover how the leftist conspiracy against men operates through institutions, media, law, and relationships to neutralize male excellence. You will learn the virtue of stoicism, not as passive endurance, but as active defiance against a world that wants you broken, medicated, and silent. This book will show you the satanic elites, not as cartoonish villains, but as real actors who profit from your confusion, your guilt, your self-doubt. It will expose the myth of female innocence with clinical precision, using history, psychology, and evolutionary biology. It will dissect the weaponization of guilt, how you've been trained to feel shame for success, for strength, for speaking plainly. You will learn why the death of the trivium has led to the collapse of Western reason, and how to rebuild it within yourself. You will be introduced to the Manosphere awakening, not as a hate movement, but as a return to sanity, self-respect, and masculine virtue. If you are tired of feeling like an imposter in your own life, not because you are inadequate, but because you are surrounded by liars and frauds, this book will arm you. If you are sick of being silenced by emotional blackmail, if you are done apologizing for being smart, strong, and self-reliant, this book will validate you. It will not comfort you. It will not coddle you. It will not tell you what you want to hear. It will tell you what you need to know. The truth is not kind, but it is liberating. You are not delusional. You are not broken. You are not alone. You have been lied to systematically, deliberately, and cruelly. This book is your antidote. Read it, understand it, live by it, or remain enslaved. Imposter Syndrome, Educated Above One's Station and Feminine Inferiority Complex. Written by Conrad Riker. By now, links in description.